reason, it seems we should not see learning different communication skills as manipulation. Instead, like getting the latest upload or the newest safety gear is something a lot of us in the military learned about, is the phonetic alphabet. Turns out, I'm gonna sound crazy, everything we thought we knew about the phonetic alphabet turns out is almost entirely wrong. For those of you that don't know, the phonetic alphabet is actually a spelling alphabet. I think that's what it's called. I'll correct it when I upload the title if I'm wrong. I think it's a spelling alphabet, and so what it is and not at all a phonetic alphabet. A phonetic alphabet is completely different. And so for those of you that don't know, the spelling alphabet is so that when we communicate, even face to face, and today by cell phone, it makes it easier to spell individual letters, because the letter A, for example, could be misunderstood or misinterpreted for something else. So the spelling alphabet actually started, and this is why it seems it might be important to consider different or better ways to communicate. Exactly why in 1876 somebody invented one of the first known versions of the spelling alphabet, what's commonly referred to as the phonetic alphabet. So the spelling alphabet started when on the phone people would hear static and a bad connection. If it wasn't staticky, if the connection was, if the message was clear and concise, it might be intermittent, or it might be clear but poor. So this is a practice we still communicate in the military over radio communications. Is if somebody is not clear, we might say something like poor and unreadable. Even if somebody's radio comms is good and clear, we still use a phonetic alphabet, or correction, I'm going to correct myself now, to describe it as what it's actually called, and that's the spelling alphabet. So the spelling alphabet, and just there I come out with the F of phonetic, though I caught myself in the first letters, stopping myself. So let's try this again. Where was I going with this? The spelling alphabet, and it's not entirely NATO, though there's the group, and there's several people that were involved, and different countries that were involved with using an English version spelling alphabet. Harvard had lots to do with it, and a group from Quebec, the province of Quebec, and it's largely rooted out around the English, French, Spanish Italian languages, and some words were changed over the years because there was problems with some of the different ideas or theories in different words, until it was improved to what we have today. And also, in very recent years, Germany changed its spelling alphabet to places or cities. So and it seems one reason the majority still call it the phonetic alphabet is exactly because of some of the barriers in communication. And the barriers in communication, one barrier seems to be around the misguided belief that different or better barriers or better improvements in communication is seen as manipulation. When I've often talked about learning different negotiation skills, a lot of people are resistant because some have learned negotiation skills and some are reluctant, specifically pushback, because they see it as a manipulation tool, not aware the reason we communicate is to negotiate at all, and no words have to be spoken to communicate. Some of the best communicators don't have to hear a word. They can do all the talking to make somebody else feel heard. That means a person doesn't have to say a word to feel heard. The people around them, good communicators around them, can tell them how they feel. I do that in one context. I try to apply and learn and practice and fail to practice the skills in different contexts. One I like to often do is with the coffee barista, restaurant hostess, similar situations or examples where people wear their feelings on their face. I like to narrow it down into 3 groups or categories. Whether somebody is either mad, sad, angry, upset, or similar. The third is if somebody looks bland, like they're not sad or angry and they're not happy. I generalize it by assuming they might be exhausted. If it looks like that person is exhausted, like they're not happy but they're not mad or sad, then I label. If it just looks bland, I might say you look exhausted. Now I've had some pushback on that. Somebody saying the reason they smile when they look mad, and I tell them that they look mad, or if they look sad, I tell them they look sad, or if they look exhausted, I tell them they look exhausted. And 99% of the time, 97% of the time, 97 to 99% of the time, they always smile. And what I'm told is, by some, is that they're employees and they're required to smile. Now here's I didn't know how to explain it until now, and now I would say if I don't make them smile, they don't smile. Let me say that again. If I don't make them smile, if I don't say anything to make them smile, they don't smile. If I say anything that makes them angry, they'll tell me. I try not to make anybody angry. If I do by accident, I'll tell them that it looks like I made them angry because of XYZ. So, if I say the wrong thing, I can make them mad, sad, laugh. If I don't say anything at all, they might not smile. Often don't smile. However, if I tell them what it looks like they feel, if they look mad, sad, exhausted, or happy, 97 to 99% of the time they always smile. If I tell them what it looks like they feel. So I'll say that again. If I don't say anything, they don't smile. If I say or do the wrong thing, often makes them angry. So, but that's not enough. Something we've been conditioned to think is that we make choices rooted in logic, and we don't. Again, about 99% of the time, we make emotional decisions. We accept our gut feeling. And Dr. Daniel Kahneman, psychologist, discovered and codified the theory and a theory and his book is titled Thinking Fast and Slow. What he suggests is that we should be thinking slowly, taking the time to do, in my own words, we should take the time to do all the hard, heavy thinking early. Doing all the hard, heavy thinking early means that we don't rush to conclusions, that we don't make emotional choices. However, the hard part is trying to sell a theory like this, like today's topic, trying to sell a theory on logic out of habit, out of condition, when in fact I'm still trying to discover and practice and learn how to communicate an idea so that I sell the idea on the emotion, not the logic. And I don't know how to do that yet. And it's important, even though we can choose to do all the hard, heavy thinking early, our default, especially when we're exhausted, reverts back to doing emotional choices, making emotional choices. So it's just best that I learn and that you learn how to sell ideas on the emotion. One place I go to for that, where you can look up, is specifically one of my favorite is Chris Voss, and there's others teaching similar or almost identical skills, which are practiced by the FBI, the CIA, similar agencies, though not societally accepted and practiced. Many are resistant, again, calling it manipulation, calling different communication skills as a manipulation, when in fact many are trying to manipulate me in different ways. Because what seems like society has been conditioned to think that it's okay to manipulate others and how society's accepted it. When like Dr. Jordan Peterson says, fear is a great motivator. It's one of those natural things that we've learned many millions of years, though fear is not the only motivator. My favorite is a CIA example, and there's two trains of thought on motivation, not trains of thought, instead different practices. One is Dr. Edward Dece's intrinsic motivation. Another is the CIA's race motivators. The race motivators are rewards, ideology, coercion, and ego. Coercion is the bad apple of the family, though it doesn't have to be used in a negative manner. Some choose to, and society is accepted that seems to be a norm. Even civil rights law groups, out of habit, out of societal conditioning, civil rights law groups choose to use coercion, and largely because different or better communication skills are frowned upon, usually seen as a manipulation tactic instead of the latest, greatest innovation in communication. Like the spelling alphabet is one improvement in communication, which still could be used, often should be used, even with cell phones, especially with cell phones. And first invented in part by AT&T. I forget what the A stands for. Telephone and Telegraph Company. I think it might be the American Telephone and Telegraph Company, AT&T. So AT&T was largely responsible initially for starting the spelling alphabet. And a lot of people did a lot of work for a long time to improve the spelling alphabet, what should be called the spelling alphabet. And so if we're going to improve things, it seems we should demystify and remove some of the negativity around improving how we communicate. So it's not just improving the and it took about 100 years, almost 100 years to improve the spelling alphabet. Though it's still not widely known as the spelling alphabet, it's still called the phonetic alphabet, even though it never was. Just a rumor that spread around its name. So, improving how we communicate. I like to think we're still blind to improving how we communicate, and largely because it's seen as manipulation. When I think like the spelling alphabet took almost 100 years to improve to the standard we have today. It seems that society should just be open and accepting, and that's the hard part. Is Chris Voss talks about how I should make you laugh to make other people like yourself more open and receptive, and there's different tools to make the listener smarter, which also makes you more open and receptive. As long as I can choose to try to best I can. I still find it hard to smile myself. That's one tool. If I can't make you laugh, if I smile when I talk, and I still fail to, because life has been hard on me and I'm just burned out. If I smile when I talk, that also feeds the oxytocin and serotonin, I think the first one I mispronounced. If I can feed those neurochemicals in your brain, it makes them more open and receptive to different information, like demystifying removing any negativity around improving how we communicate. Stop seeing it as is it crazy to stop seeing improvements as a manipulation, communication as a manipulation, though it is, because it's a negotiation between, whether it's between myself and the traffic at night with high visibility clothing, or in the military night vision equipment. We can choose different words and different tone, pacing, and inflection to make the listener smarter. And choose, not just choosing our words, but word count is another important thing to make the listener smarter. The less words I use, and or the more dynamic pauses I use, gives the listener time to absorb the information. Sometimes some of my dynamic pauses are not intentional. Sometimes I'm just looking for words, trying to describe this complex process of trying to improve how we communicate, rooted in neurology, in the survival brain. The survival brain really only wants to hear two words. That's the way I see it. That's the best information I have right now. What two words does the survival brain want? Danger and food. The reason there's a constant battle between being selfish and being serving is because, for the same reason, danger and food. Self-preservation and contributing to the tribe also means that the tribe gets to contribute back to you. So it is a constant battle. And so the reason we talk is to warn the tribe of danger or food. And the reason we reciprocate helping the tribe is so that when somebody else sees, smells, feels danger or food, they can warn us, and we can either run from danger or run to food. So it's our brains, 3/4 of our brain, or amygdala, is dedicated to fear of loss. That's more survival than serving. Our brain is focused on survival, and some of that includes running to food. And it's cold outside. So like choosing to wear high visibility clothing as a choice we can choose to wear night vision equipment. And what kind of night vision equipment? The best kind of night vision equipment. because there's different grades of night vision equipment, like there's different grades of high visibility clothing. With high visibility clothing, is often mandated. It's not a choice, it's a requirement. See, this yellow is only good for daytime. The silver in this reflective vest, the silver is nighttime. And some of that is regulated, required by law. And it feels to me like we should regulate, mandate certain trades to have. Am I really crazy? Is it ridiculous that therapists, pilots, and other high stakes maybe negotiators, hostage negotiators, pilots, therapists, be mandated, regulated, tested for the best methods of communication. Like airline industry has investigations that never close, because the investigation is always open, though there seems to be barriers. So similarly, it feels like improvements in communication should always be open, should always be investigated to be improved and tested against what? I agree that communication theory should be rooted in neurology and the survival brain. There's lots of evidence. One of my favorites is there's been studies that show, studies from MIT, NYU, and Boston U show that people do not respond to emails longer than 40 words. That doesn't mean that you can't have attachments, but So that 40 words to me means that that's closely related to why our survival brain wants to hear 2 words. It's the only 2 words we want to hear. So word count. And it's not just about word count, it's about good and bad information. Like food and danger, there's lots of storytelling theories that revolve around whether a person the best storytelling theories are keep a person's attention by keeping people in an emotional roller coaster, good and bad, like food and danger. So it's not just word count, and the word count is important, especially to keep people on an emotional roller coaster. And the best storytelling theories. So I gotta get my blood pressure taken, and I gotta buy some laptop bags. So I don't know how to end this. I'm gonna do a series on having difficult conversations. Look for my next several videos on having difficult conversations. Seems important in improving how we communicate. I look forward to seeing you. Comment down below what you think. Help the community. Help the tribe. Thanks.